welcome back to my channel. I'm erucarose. I am a lot of things. Don't set boundaries for yourself. I'm a vegan, I am an astrologer, I practice witchcraft, and I'm really interested in studying religion and science and everything. So, ninth house stellium. So today it was requested that I talk about the metaphysics of witchcraft and my personal view on metaphysical things, I suppose. Basically how I think it works, alright? And how a lot of other people think it works. So just a disclaimer, this is my current personal perspective on this. I'm not claiming that everyone thinks the same way as me who practices similarly to me. I'm not saying that you need to believe what I say. I probably wouldn't have made this video if it hadn't been requested, but I am excited about making this video. I've actually had it planned for like a while, but I have this like perfectionism issue, and I have a hard time sort of allowing myself to just go ahead and do the video. So, working on it. Get brighter maybe. And that affects the lighting in my video. Perfect. My laptop is part of my lighting equipment. So my core beliefs are, one, and these are beliefs I've had for a long time. Some more recently, some less recently, but for a while. So I believe that we do not have the capacity as human beings to fully understand how everything works around us. I don't think we have the ability with our brains to understand the universe and how it works completely. I think we get little hints here and there, and different people get different hints, but none of us get all of them. And that brings me to my next belief, that everyone's experience attempting to understand this reality is different, but all are valid. I believe that we should be open to learning from all sources and take what we will from it. I also believe in spirit, this inner connection we all have in divine timing, and I believe that energy and intentions have meaning. So I think to understand my perspective, you need to know a little bit about me. I'm a spiritual person as much as I am a scientific, practical person. I grew up obsessed with art and nature as much as I did being obsessed with science and technology. I remember growing up and having these elaborate inner worlds, especially in my yard, outside, and nature, and everything made sense there. And nature is what actually got me interested in science in the first place. See, I was at this day camp for youths, and we were at this community college, and they had us do all these nature science projects, and I got to see the lab for the first time in a college, and that was just so cool. And I remember thinking like, wow, like I wish I could be someone who does this someday. And that sort of started this interest in science. I'd always been sort of a researcher personality anyways. Actually, a similar thing happened with theater and religious study, but that's like for another video. So I don't talk about it much online. It is in my Instagram bio, but I don't expect people to memorize that. I do have a bachelor's of science in biochemistry, and I minored in nutrition. Even so, no scientist can understand every aspect of all of science, and I don't claim to either. The thing is, there are so many different areas of science, and there are so many things that we are on the verge of being able to explain the best we can. And there are also so many things that we will never be able to explain through the scientific method. And research isn't perfect, just so you know. I have seen a lot of that side of the world as well. And it is just as full of politics and money grabbing and lying and mistakes and job threatening and varying quality of work as any other field. I think people like to assume that anything lab tested or researched has this perfect clinical thing about it, when that's just never possible. Having said that, I do not deny science. I love science, and I think it helps us progress as a people in many different ways. And I will tie in many scientific ideas in this video as I feel called to. At one point, I was with a person who was getting 3 bachelor's degrees at once. It was triple majoring. They were all very difficult degrees, all sciencey. One of those was physics. We would often talk about our fields and things we were interested in, and we would watch a lot of theoretical physics lectures together. He was very interested in black holes. I remember a lot about black holes, and I think his spirit would find this so funny that I'm mentioning him in this video for the first time on my channel out of all my videos I've made so far. So that was my lead-in for this. Like quantum entanglement, we are inherently connected to the universe. As above, so below. You don't know much about this. Particles far, far, far away from each other behave in sync, even though they have no obvious connection to one another. And science is still learning a lot about this. So when we look to a higher force, or the stars, or the tea leaves in our cup, or the molecules we consist of, with the right intention, we can see this connection ourselves. See, it's not that one thing necessarily causes another. They just work in this perfect correlation. They only work in perfect correlation. There are many explanations and reasons why something happens. And the more you think about it, the more it seems like this very human frontal lobe problem solving, trying to figure it out sort of survival method. I mean, we are selectively bred, genetically trained to ask why and solve problems. And as we meet our hierarchy of needs, we start to ask why on more and more lofty concepts. And when it comes down to it, we should be at a high enough level by now to love those around us, whether they subscribe to the same lofty why as we do. We are all here having a very connected but very different human experience, and all are valid. This is sort of just reminding me of my tattoo. No less. It's part of this Max Ehrmann poem, and it's my favorite thing ever. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. So, here's the sciencey part. Energy is, as you may have heard, never created or destroyed. It only changes form. We live on a physical and energetic plane where everything physical is still vibrating at a certain frequency. There are so many ways to discuss these energy science topics that I could not possibly cover in a 10 to 20 minute video. So here are just a few things that I thought of quickly. Water reacts to intentional energy. So if you put an intent in water, if you put a negative energy or positive energy towards water, it will show it on a molecular level. So you can probably just Google water love hate experiment or something. But there are a ton of these now, and it's really interesting. Basically, when there's a good intention, you see this like crystalline structure, and when it's a negative intent, it just looks like garbage water. So another thing I wanted to mention is brainwaves. And brainwaves are more complicated to talk about, but you do sort of, your brain does work with frequencies a lot. One thing that I really like to use is binaural beats, or I'll look up like theta waves for meditation, or delta waves for sleeping. I also made good use of these during labor with my son, because I did that all natural. Make another video about that later. So basically it emits the frequency, it plays the frequency that your brain goes to when you're doing different things. So when you're in a meditative state, you're in this like sort of theta wave state, and it will play those waves and encourage you to hop on train, because that's another thing our brains like to do. It's kind of like jump in with everyone else, jump in with the vibe, you know? So this one I think is going to be, this is going to be the thing that was very interesting to me when I was younger, and I think it was one of those things where it helped me deny my emotions a lot thinking about this. So it's about the chemicals in our brain, like the natural mechanisms in our brain, the biochemical mechanisms. So some people will argue that, well, you just feel happy because, you know, serotonin has hit your serotonin receptors and blah, blah, blah. And you see the light when you die because blah, blah, blah. This is happening in your brain. And all of those things are valid. I'm not denying those things. But I'm saying it's not the pure cause, because there are other causes. Like, okay. I'm saying that it's, oh my God. I'm saying that it's several causes all working together, including the chemical one. And we live in a physical and energetic world. So if something exists energetically or physically, they have to combine somehow. You can't have one without the other. The feeling of happiness can't exist without a mechanism to create it, or vice versa. Everything works in sync with each other. I hope I explained that okay. It's a lot easier without the pressure of being filmed talking about that. But basically, yeah, I just think that it's not one cause. It's several causes for something to happen. All these causes come together at this divine timing. There are many areas of research and scientific theories that are out there trying to reach over to explain this more spiritual side. But like many other non-marketed research topics out there, unless some big entity is going to profit off of it or there's a huge cultural shift, no one's really going to see it, or it won't be widely accepted. Which many spiritual people believe we are undergoing a shift as we enter this Aquarian age. So now the less like science-y stuff. So if you've ever felt a connection to the world around you, maybe when you're outside in nature, or the people around you, or some universal higher power, then you are to some extent experiencing this grand connection. And it can be hard to allow yourself to acknowledge this, especially because in our culture, we're trained to take on this practicality after a certain age. Now, remember back to when you were a child, when your mind was less trained, when you were closer to the spiritual realm. You hadn't been in here this long. You hadn't been in the world that long. You likely had some sense of inner knowing. You probably felt connected to some type of experience, whether it be exploring nature, or you felt the love from your family, or maybe you fell in love young. That's the feeling I'm talking about. That creative world of your own that you get lost in. That's your magic, your power. Allow yourself to go back there. And while you're there, you can do some inner child work. You should look that up too. For many witches, this is part of the story they will tell when they're asked, when did you decide to become a witch? And they'll say, well, I always was. Because it's not that they became one, it's that they remembered and started to utilize their inherent connection they had to the world around them. So now for manifesting and prayer and magic and hope and intentions, they're all sort of the same thing, at least to me. You are willing for something with your energy, and often wanting to connect it to some higher power, some grand universal power. In this spiritual dimension, for every energetic movement, there is a reaction. If you put it out to the powers that be that you have something, and you do it in a powerful, authentic, energetic way. Now, everyone must find their own power and do this in their own way. This is like, again, this makes me want to like start ranting about organized religion a little bit, but it's fine. So if you put something out there like that on the energetic plane, there is a force that wants to close that gap between the energetic realm and the physical realm. Some popular examples, all right? Let's say you put it out there that you are worthy and financially abundant. If you can give out the vibe that exists, already, then there is an energetic and a physical gap if you don't actually have that. So what happens is it has to close the gap. So the material world has to match the energy you put out to close the gap. Another example, if you believe wholeheartedly that finding love is easy and it comes to you naturally, so mote it be, and it will be. We exist within these planes only in this perfect correlation. And again, these things might come to you in an unexpected way, but in Christianity, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Often our minds stand in the way from creating change in our lives. Everyone has these patterns in their mind that hold them back from things that they truly want. See, these tendencies can be seen in your natal chart, by the way, so hit me up for a reading. Stressing over something you really, really want isn't going to work because the energy you're putting out is the same energy you're going to get back. So you're going to get back that stressful energy that you were putting out towards what you wanted. I hope that makes sense. Want lightly and it will come to you with ease. Attract it, don't chase it. Ask and you shall receive. So there are many strategies you can use to get your mind on board with these intentions and add power to your intention. In witchcraft, this is essentially what a spell is. You're using inspired items around you and calling to higher powers that you adhere to help. In Christianity, this is prayer or participating in your church or keeping religious items with you, singing hymns and praising the Lord and all of these things. For example, when I was younger at a teen church camp, we made these little cross necklaces and I really liked them. So I wore mine all of the time and I decided that it was a little flimsy. It was a bit of a flimsy necklace. So I had decided that it was a reminder of my faith, and it was a reminder of this sort of inner connection piece that I had created. And if it fell apart, it was a signal to me that I needed to put more energy into my spiritual side. Now, I wore this necklace all the time. And we can talk more about my Christianity experience in another video, but basically I wanted to explain that this was a way for me to allow my mind to believe without having to overthink it every time. And it reminded me to put more energy into my connection and my hopes and intentions and prayers. Currently and personally, I believe that our souls chose to live this life and possibly at some point live more lives. I feel that there are things to do or learn, some sort of purpose that's undisclosed to us on the physical plane. From a higher perspective, this doesn't really matter though, finding your purpose, because even if you have a much less metaphysical retribution idea of the universe, we can still strive to be the best version of ourselves we can be, and the most loving we can be. We need to continue shifting our culture and our space here to value love and caring as much as it does practicality, because community is important. Since we are not able to understand exactly how it works or why, it is useless and sometimes harmful to base our entire morality on it, which is one thing I love about humanism. You should go find a lecture on that. Rather than basing morality on spirituality, I think they should correlate. Just like everything else, everything corresponds and correlates in this perfect divine way. Again, it's also useless to argue about it. We should share our experiences and be opening to learning about others' experiences, especially those who became before us. That was my metaphysical talk. I know it branched off into a lot of other little subtopics, but if you have any other questions, I can make a second video. I can make 1,000 videos. Just let me know what you thought, especially the person who asked me this question in the first place. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I make a lot of videos, and I will see you next time.